Police occupy a uniquely powerful position in our society. Those who serve and protect are placed on a moral pedestal above the rich and powerful and above the poor and weak. As children, we are taught to admire and trust police officers. Now as adults, we are taught to question norms, to question media, and to question our own beliefs.
We trust our protectors to be moral, fair, and just, and all British Columbia police officers are bound by the BC Police Code of Ethics. This code serves as a moral guide for making ethical decisions that are made during everyday patrols and during high-stakes situations. The code calls on officers to practice impartiality, integrity, and respect in all actions and decisions. The Victoria Police Department proudly displays this document on its website, but given negative recent publicity in the media, we question VICPD's ethical conduct. To satisfy our curiosities, we took to the streets to seek public opinion and also interviewed authorities on the subject to understand how well the VICPD adheres to its own ethical standards.
Right, I used to respect them. Like in my school, when I was a kid, I respected the police and the uniform and their job until I got to know them a little bit better.
They have the power to find out who you are, where you're born, who your parents are, what color eyes you got, all of this at their disposal. Because that's available, I think you're automatically judged by that.
I don't like the way they handle things, and I think they're actually getting better.
I think they should do more for the really nasty guys and maybe be a little less on the misdemeanor kind of stuff.
They definitely do some good stuff around town, and a lot of times homeless people they'll help out as well, but again it kind of counteracts what you hear from the media.
I would say I definitely look at the media. I read the newspaper quite frequently, and I would base it off of that.
I think the media plays a huge role in how the police look at people.
If you want to know anything about the Victoria PD, the only people reporting on it is the media. Certainly we trust our officers in situations where people are not at their best. Are they living up to that public trust? Well, we sort of expect the media to watch that for us or to report that to us.
There's a tendency on the behalf of the police departments to clamp down when they feel they're under attack. So it's harder to do good stories about a police department when there's a bad story hanging over it. You just organize the information in a way that condenses it and presents it in order of importance generally, and people like to call that sensationalizing stories, but we know as journalists that most people don't read past the second paragraph. How do you cover a story about a police chief losing his job and then at the same time do you write a second story saying for 239 other officers everything A-OK? What kind of story is that? I think you try to contextualize it in the story and you hope that people read it with an element of common sense and fairness that, one or two officers in the police department don't represent the whole thing. At the end of the day, the public doesn't care who the reporter is in the story, and they don't care who the media spokesperson is at the police department. They just want the information.
The press is an institution in itself, but what it's supposed to do is serve the public good by asking the hard questions.
No code, no law, no set of regulations can be specific to every circumstance. You'd need a code that goes into terabytes, and even then it won't be complete. So it always requires interpretation, and that's why the crucial question is, what guidelines, what values motivate that, and what is the order of the values? My specialty as an ethicist is doing applied ethics. It doesn't deal with ethical decision making at all. It uses the term ethics and ethical decision making, but ethical decision making involves applying fundamental ethical principles to the situation at hand.
The bad stuff outshines the good stuff, so there's always going to be that one or two cops that has a total power trip, and so everyone associates it with that.
Law enforcement behavior has been the subject of increased scrutiny in the public eye. Police officers are held accountable to the ethics of their occupation, And just like dangerous encounters, ethical dilemmas occur without warning and without opportunity to consider all outcomes. Within the limits of individual rights and freedoms of our democratic society, police officers are obligated to enforce the law in an impartial manner. We acknowledge that most officers do an excellent job of this. They treat everyone with dignity and do not abuse their power.
In the performance of their duty, law enforcement officials shall respect and protect human dignity and maintain and uphold the human rights of all persons. Notice that is the first major value.
Every time they put the cuffs on you, they put them on harder than they have to, and they put them a little tighter than they need to be. And when they drive you to the police station. You're handcuffed, and sometimes you're shackled by the feet too. They giggle and laugh as they slam on the brakes and take turns and go over bumps and stuff, knowing that you're getting knocked around in the back of a paddy wagon.
If you're going to violate human dignity and respect for persons, which is the first major value, you must be able to show that it is necessary and only to the extent necessary to do a legitimate act.
I think that sometimes there's just way too much force used and it really doesn't need to be used.
Even though you're accused of something, you are still a person, you have still dignity, you have fundamental rights.
I am what I am, right? But I'm still a human. So I got no, I think that they should at least understand that we're humans out here and we have our problems, but we're not here to cause them grief. We do, I guess, but they could put a little effort into changing things.
Here, a male taunts a line of motorcycle officers.
You have been given power. It is tremendous power, but it is power that may be used only ethically.
This is a public institution, taxpayer supported. We want them to be open, we want them to be transparent, and we want them, and because we trust them to bear arms, right?
Delegated power is always power subject to the rules under which it is delegated, which means the individual who delegates it hasn't given it up, but rather has given the power for use by the officers or by the agencies, which means they are responsible to the individuals who delegate, which is a society. Therefore, by its very nature, delegated power is transparent power.
Transparency, contrary to what the cops will tell you, is a two-way street. It's not just about giving information when people ask. It's about, giving them information before they get worried about it. That's how you stop them from seeing conspiracies everywhere.
I think there's a huge transparency issue with the police.
Transparency is suddenly a goal of corporate governance. So we're going to see more and more of that. Is there potential for abuse? Yes, there is a potential for abuse.
Unfortunately, the news stories and personal tales we hear of police corruption, excess force, and abuse of authority undeniably taint public perception of VICPD. As a result, some residents have lost confidence in the ability of VICPD's officers to conduct themselves ethically. If the Victoria Police Department responds to the public desire for greater transparency, VICPD may regain lost trust, improve community relations, and secure its ethical position in the minds of those served.
It's a fundamental principle of law that not only must justice be done, it must be seen to be done, hence transparent.